We open and close them several times a day in and day out, and seldom give them a second thought. But imagine your home without doors. For one thing, you'd have absolutely no privacy. And what would you slam when you get angry? The first factory makes the doors plywood facing. They start by loading logs into steaming basins for 3 days. This de-ices them in the winter and softens the wood fiber. Inside the factory, the steamed logs line up for the debarker, a machine that removes the bark. The operator projects concentric circles and uses a laser to carefully center the log on the debarker. Positioning is crucial for 2 reasons: so that as little wood as possible comes off with the bark, and to ensure the debarked log ends up perfectly cylindrical. That maximizes the amount of wood veneer a log will yield. The next step is called rotary cutting. As the log spins, a lathe skims off a sheet of wood veneer just 0.6 of a millimeter thick. The average log yields 134 linear meters of veneer. Next, they unroll the veneer and cut it into sheets. Then they stack the sheets by identical grain patterns. Using a laser to position the blade, they cut through the stack to take out visual defects. Then they glue the pieces together. To make veneer sheets for the front of the plywood door facing, the side that will show, they line up the wood's grain and other features in mirror image. For the back, the side that won't show, they assemble the defective parts they cut out earlier. They use 3 veneer sheets to make up the plywood door facing. They apply glue to both sides of one sheet, then sandwich it between 2 other sheets. They feed the 3 sheets through a hot press at more than 100 degrees Celsius. In 1.5 minutes, the glue cures, and those 3 sheets of veneer become a 3-ply panel of plywood. Then they sand the panel. Plywood door facings can be made from more than 15 different species of wood, from birch and oak to maple and mahogany. At the second factory, they make the core of the door. They glue together strips of wood to form the middle, then frame them with pieces of white pine. A press pushes the core pieces together, then activates the glue not by heat as most presses do, but by microwaves. Next, they sand and calibrate the core. After the glue machine coats the core, they stick a plywood door facing on each side. They stack a few doors at a time into a cold press for a half hour until the glue dries. Then set them aside while the glue cures for another 8 hours. Next, they size the width and length to the final dimension, bevel the edges, and cut the exact height of the door. Then they inspect the door on both sides. A machine prepares the door for hinges. Then another machine cuts the hole for the knob. The finishing process takes just 70 seconds per door. One side is sanded, stained, and sealed, then sanded again and varnished. The machine then flips the door over and does the same thing to the other side.
There was a time when exposing your hardwood floors meant you just couldn't afford wall-to-wall carpeting. Not anymore. Hardwood floors are definitely in. And today there are so many wood and stain color choices, hardwood floors can suit any decor. The types of wood commonly used for flooring include red oak, beech, maple, white oak, walnut, birch, and ash. As soon as the wood arrives from the sawmill, workers at the floor factory stack it on racks, then pile the racks floor to ceiling in a dryer that's the size of a large barn. There, large fans circulate hot air around the racks. The wood's moisture content is between 40 and 60%, depending on the season. When that drops to about 7%, the wood is ready to come out. This drying process takes anywhere from 10 days to a month. The length of time varies because some species dry out much slower than others. The wood is in random lengths and widths, so the first step after drying is to cut it to standard sizes. On the way to the ripsaw, the planks pass under an optical device called an optimizer. In mere seconds, it reads the dimensions of each plank and sends that information to a computer. The computer calculates the greatest number of standard-sized pieces that can be cut from the plank, then guides the ripsaw to cut accordingly. This maximizes the yield and limits waste. Flooring is made from medium quality rather than top quality lumber to keep prices competitive. As the pieces exit the saw, workers manually cut out any large knots or other defects, weak points at which a piece could potentially snap and jam up the equipment. The pieces now travel to a machine called the molder. Its revolving steel knives spin at a rate of 6,000 rotations per minute, carving a tongue down one side of each piece and a groove down the other. Workers do frequent spot checks to make sure the tongues and grooves fit together snugly. The next machine carves grooves on what will be the underside of the pieces. This is for air circulation and stability. Then, an embossed wheel imprints the words, "Made in Canada." Using cross-cut saws, workers remove any faults in the wood and divide pieces that have noticeable color variations. This is the first step towards sorting the wood by grade. Now a machine called an end matcher carves a tongue and groove on the two ends. Here's the view from inside the machine. Workers check once again for faults. Then, assessing quality and color, sort each piece by grade. This will be pre-finished flooring, so the pieces now run through a sander to prepare them to receive 8 coats of varnish. For certain finishes, the first coat contains wood stain. All subsequent coats are colorless. Between each application, ultraviolet lamps dry the varnish in just a few seconds. As the flooring exits the last drying oven, it's ready for packaging. Unfinished hardwood flooring has to be sanded, stained, and varnished after it's installed. Pre-finished flooring eliminates that extra work, sparing you the dust, the drying time, and the smell.